I'm Lauren. I like making lots of different kinds of crafts, but lately I've been getting the urge to reach outside of my comfort zone and try a totally new medium. So recently, when a subscription box company called Pop America reached out and offered to send me their monthly craft and style DIY kit for free, that part of me that always wants to learn new skills said absolutely. Full disclosure that I was not paid to include this in a video, and I will not currently make commission if you decide to buy it. I get a lot of comments from folks who tell me that they really want to make my DIY projects, but they've never tried sewing or embroidery or anything like that before. What I usually tell them is that there's a first time for everything, and when you're watching my YouTube videos, you have to remember that you're seeing years of work and practice that brought me to that point. I also had to start somewhere. This video, however, is an example of my actual first try, and I have no idea how it's going to turn out. And if it ends up being a gigantic mess, well, that's a starting point, and it leaves plenty of room for improvement if I ever want to try again. So this is the box. Oh, it smells really good! Oh, it's a DIY candle kit. Here's a photo of what I'll be trying to make. So it looks like this box includes all the supplies that I need to make these candles. The instructions on here are really basic, and it says at the bottom, for detailed instructions, visit Pop Shop America and put candle in the search. So because I have never made candles before, these basic instructions probably aren't going to do it for me. I'm thinking that the detailed instructions are probably going to help me out quite a bit, so I'm going to look those up. I'm immediately intimidated by the thought that I need to use my stove to make this. I have to melt the wax on the stove. So please don't judge the state of my kitchen, and we'll see how this goes. So here are all of the supplies it comes with. I'm just getting everything set out on my desk. They put a bunch of tiny bottles of essential oils in this box, but it looks like some of them leaked. I have a feeling that my studio is going to smell good after this. I pulled up the more detailed instructions on my phone, and the first step was to put a wick into each container. It says to wrap the top around a pencil, and the only item like that in the box was a single popsicle stick, which I decided to use for stirring instead, so I grabbed some pencils I already had. This step makes the top of the wick curly, and it also holds it into the center while the wax cools. They're not balancing super well since there isn't anything to weigh the wick down yet, but hopefully that'll be okay. Next, I poured some of the wax into the mason jar that came with the kit, and I brought it downstairs to melt it. One set of instructions told me to put the jar in a pot of water and boil it, and the other had the wax melting right in a pot, but I chose to use the jar with the water around it, hopefully less of a mess that way. Once the wax started melting, the level went down quite a lot, so I kept pouring more wax into it. I'm not sure how much I'll end up needing, but we will find out together. I stirred it with the popsicle stick, and eventually the liquid wax became totally clear, and I brought the jar back upstairs really carefully. The glass actually cooled down very quickly, which I appreciated. So next, I poured the liquid wax into each of the glass cups supplied with the kit. This part was kind of messy, and I had to make sure that the wick stayed in the center of the cup once I was done. There is actually quite a bit of wax left over, both in the original bag and the jar, so you might be able to squeeze another candle or two out of this kit if you got another wick and vessel for it. Now it's time to wait until the wax starts to solidify, and it says that you can tell that's happening because it starts to turn opaque at the bottom. Then we're supposed to add essential oils and stir each one up. I am new at this, but I tried to pick some scents that I thought would go well together. I also wasn't sure how much to include. The little bottles are also a bit tricky to use, so I definitely dumped a little too much in once or twice when I just wanted a few drops. The instructions on the website said to use 30 to 50 drops though, so I think it's probably fine, though I'm not sure if the size of the candle in the kit is the same as this blog post that the instructions come from. One thing I also did not anticipate was how quickly the candles would solidify. Because I was making 3 at once, by the time I got to the last one, it was much farther along and tougher to stir. Whoops, definitely something I'll know better for next time. Here's where things started getting weird. The instructions say to wait until the candle is almost totally solidified before sprinkling lavender buds and gemstones onto the surface of the candle. Like I said, I think I waited too long, and by the time I got to this step, they were pretty solid. So I'm not sure if they were supposed to sink down at all, but mine didn't, and I imagine that could make them a little messy to give as a gift since it would all fall out if it tipped over in transit. I also put one of the gemstones they included in there, and I tried pushing it in a little in case the wax was not totally solid yet, but that was kind of messy, so I don't recommend doing that. I finished up that step on the rest of the candles, probably more successfully since I now know to leave it alone and not try to push anything into the wax, and that's it. Here are the finished DIY candles I made with the Pop Shop America kit. Honestly, for a first try, I don't think they're too bad. They smell really nice, and while my timing wasn't the best, I came out of this experience knowing how I would do things differently the next time I try to make my own candles. One last thing I wanted to mention, the next day, once the candles had totally set, I ended up with this weird waxy cloud around the candles. It looks like it's on the outside of the glass, but I tried to wipe it off and it's not. Not sure what that's about or how it got there exactly, but there you have it. So that went surprisingly well for my first try. I think this is something I want to do again, and I'm interested to see how it would turn out if I were to source my own supplies and choose my own design for the candles. The good news is, at least from my experience, projects tend to turn out better on the second or third time that you try to make it because you've had a chance to work out all of your mistakes and figure out what you're doing wrong. And there's no harm in taking the time to develop a new skill. This kind of thing is almost always an experience that you can build on and learn from. I love that this box gave me the opportunity to try something new. I was definitely nervous to try candle making, but I ended up being really glad that I went out of my comfort zone and gave it a try. I didn't put any pressure on myself. I think this video would turn out to be a valuable thing to watch, whether it turns out well or turns out really badly. Could just be funny to watch later. I do wish that they had included the more detailed instructions in the box because it's just easier for me to carry this card downstairs with me instead of having to also look online and read off of a blog at the same time. I think they definitely had room for it if they used less photos, but the photos are really pretty, so I understand. But otherwise, I think it's a really fun idea for a subscription box. If you would like to order a surprise craft kit like this one, visit popshopamerica.com and click on shop. So since this was a new kind of video format for me, I would love to hear from you about it. Would you like to see me make more videos of this where I follow a craft kit and give you a more candid look at my crafting process? And if you've ever made candles before, tell me how that went. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.